The time now is 7:10 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. Thank you for joining us tonight. Reminder that the meetings of the board are open to the public, but are not a meeting of the public. The Humble ISD Board of Trustees meet monthly in a regular meeting to receive reports from staff and take action from recommendations of the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation several days in advance of the regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions in advance of the regular meeting. Therefore, lengthy discussions are not always necessary on every agenda item, but as a board, we do have the appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of the meeting tonight. There are students and other guests present. To maintain decorum, respectful behavior is expected. Disruptive behavior and or comments will not be allowed. And with that, our first item. I would ask everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please remain standing as we observe a moment of silence. You may be seated. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to actually move some things around on the agenda today, and we're going to move the swearing in portion of our agenda to right now. So, and Ms. Marr, if I stumble in any way, please let me know. Okay, the trustees elected to the board on May 6, 2023 will now be administered the oath of office. This is trustee position 2, Robert Scarfo, trustee position 6, Marcus Holmes, trustee position 7, Mike Grabowski. We will take a pause, small recess so that we can do the oaths of office.
And Madam President, I would recommend that the board just continue with the oath of office, and we can call each trustee up one at a time and have the oath administered by their chosen representative.
Okay, and do I call on each of the elected trustees?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay, so first we will start with trustee position 2, Mr. Robert Scarfo.
Yeah, I want the boys up here too.
And as they're coming up, I will take a point of privilege to note that we have former Congressman Judge Ted Poe here with us this evening, and also Charles Cunningham, our state representative for District 127. Thank you so much. So Jonathan, you're good with the camera? He's in a good spot, okay.
All right, Robert, I'm going to swear you in.
Thank you.
Would you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Robert Scarfo,
I, Robert Scarfo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Humble Independent School District Board of Trustees, Position 2,
of the office of the Board of Trustees, Humble ISD, Position 2,
of the State of Texas,
of the State of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, defend, and protect
the Constitution of the laws of the United States and this state.
the Constitution of the laws of the United States and this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Mr. Scarfo. You're welcome. Next, we will have trustee position 6, Marcus Holmes. As our state representative, District 127, Mr. Charles Cunningham, comes forward. I know you had a day in Austin this morning, right, Mr. Cunningham? Thank you for making that trek back.
Get ready, Heather. I'll tell you what you do now. Raise your right. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right hand. And if you would, repeat after me. I, Marcus Holmes,
I, Marcus Holmes,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
of the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of the Humble Independent School District
of the Humble Independent School District
Board of Trustees,
Board of Trustees,
Position 6
Position
of
6
the State of Texas.
of the State of Texas.
I will do my best
I will do my best
and my ability
in my ability
to preserve,
to preserve,
protect, defend
defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the laws of the United States
of the laws of the United States
and this state.
and this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Signature of officer. Which signature line? Signature of officer? Oh, is that me? Oh, that's me.
Congratulations, Mr. Holmes. Okay, and then next, trustee, position 7, Mike Grabowski.
Yes, ma'am.
I, Michael Grabowski,
I, Michael Grabowski,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Humboldt Independent School District,
of the Office of Humboldt Independent School
Board
District,
of Trustees,
Board of Trustees,
Position 7
Position 7
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of the state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Grabowski. Okay, well, congratulations to our newly sworn-in board members. And moving on to our next agenda item, commendations and recognitions. Dr. Fagan, can you please introduce tonight's inspiring moments?
I am very excited to introduce tonight's inspiring moment. Welcome, everyone. It's great to have so many of you here in the boardroom with us tonight. Humboldt ISD focuses on providing education that is personalized to students' interests. One of the areas is Introduction to Culinary Arts, which is available to our middle school students now. In April, students competed in the second Top Hat Junior Culinary Competition held at Summer Creek High School. In this event, students had to prepare an appetizer, entree, and wild card item to be judged. Let's watch what happened.
So we hosted our second annual Top Hat competition. It's a culinary competition that I started at the CTE Expo prior to COVID, actually, just to get the middle school students engaged and actually coming to find out about all of our wonderful CTE programs. However, I really wanted to highlight what our students had been learning throughout the school year. So I really thought it would be really fun for the kids to show their creativity and actually put on a cooking show while at the CTE Expo.
I had literally so much fun. Everything that we did, I had a smile on my face for it, even though it was nerve-wracking the whole time. I feel like being together like this with people that you normally wouldn't see together is really just fun to do because you have all these people combined by the one love for cooking, and that's really enjoyable for me.
It was really fun. It was also stressful, but coming over those challenges just gave me a new perspective on teamwork.
It really helped us with our cooking strategies and gave us some new insight about if we want to cook in high school and how we would continue this as a career.
Students who take Intro to Culinary Arts in the middle school are better prepared for the Culinary 1 and Culinary 2 programs at the high school. And the reason why they're better prepared is because students will gain those important leadership skills, they'll gain important feedback, and they'll gain the necessary knowledge that's needed to run an industrial kitchen, to follow orders as far as following recipes, and to make sure they're meeting the food and safety component of serving food.
I really like to see students go in there and actually show their creativity and show what they're really good at, because they're good. You know, culinary arts, they may actually do this someday. However, I think that this particular program, especially the competition, shows these kids how they can persevere as a team, because that's what it took. It took teamwork tonight. It took collaboration. It took hard work, dedication, and they did that.
I'm a graduate of Humboldt Middle School. I'm from Humboldt ISD. I took Foods for Today in the classroom I'm teaching in now. And something like this wasn't around for us to participate in. And when I presented this idea to my students, a lot of them were nervous. They didn't want to put themselves out there. But some of them did apply. And we practiced. I gave them encouragement. Their classmates and teachers cheered them on. And when you have support like that, the possibilities, it's endless.
Our grand prize winner of the KitchenAid stand mixer with 113 points is Humble Middle School.
We had a good team. Anytime they messed up on something, we tried to help them, and other things like when they needed a dish clean, we ran and got it done for them. Communication was amazing. We got everything done in the time that we needed it done in.
We have been practicing for weeks. I mean, staying late till 5:30 some nights, and the kids have given their all. They have tried to impress me day after day, and they didn't like all of my criticism at times, but I was just trying to prepare them for moments like this, and they're thrilled, I don't have words for how excited I am.
We pour a lot into our kids, and I hope that our kids actually see that we have a vision and the kids can do whatever they put their mind to.
Wow, that is so impressive. The food looks delicious. I know what my middle school daughter's food looks like when she cooks.
Dr. Fagan, I can tell you it was delicious.
Was it?
I
I
was
saw
one
that.
of the judges,
Yeah.
It was really good.
Well, I want to recognize a few leaders who helped create and implement this event. First, one of my very favorite people, when I first came to Texas and to Humble ISD, in one of my very first meetings, in comes Chef Daniela Jenkins from Summer Creek High School, and she says, "I know you're gluten-free, but you just got to have chicken and waffles." So I made you gluten-free chicken and waffles. And that was one of my first experiences with our incredible CTE program and our absolutely amazing, above and beyond 10-star chef, Daniela Jenkins. So thank you for being here, Chef. It's 7 years and I'm still telling that story. That's how it sticks with me, because you're just amazing. So also, Coordinator Kimberly Young, CTE Coordinator Kimberly Young, there she is. And you saw them in the video. Now you get to see some of them in person. Tonight with us is our winning team from the Top Hat Junior Culinary Competition, the Humble Middle School Whisk Takers. And their teacher, very special to Humble ISD as a grad, Jessica Wesley. There she is. The students with us tonight are Liliana Lopez. There she is, all right. Maximilio Lopez. Dominic Robinson. Brittany King. And Owen Waithmare. Congratulations to all of you. I'm curious, how many of you are going to take culinary going up into high school now? All right, you got chefs recruiting. Well done. And I just had to mention that CTE is planned for this amazing culinary experience because they have, in the last bond, the middle school kitchens get an upgrade to move from, what your mother had to more of what Chef Jenkins had. So we're excited for that too. But congratulations to the Whisk Takers and to our chefs. Very proud of all of you. Okay, tonight we have a national championship team to honor. Director of Career and Technical Education, Larkin LeSueur, is here to tell us more about the Atascocita High School Rainbow Six Siege team.
Well, good evening, Dr. Fagan and Board of Trustees. I'm proud to stand before you tonight as we've honored many amazing CTE middle school culinary programs. It's been really inspiring over the years to see this transition from the home ec field to a pre-culinary industry course and all the amazing knowledge and skills that they're getting at the middle school level. Shifting gears a little bit, tonight we honor another one of the mini gems of Humble ISD CTE, our esports programs. At Atascocita High School, esports has become an important part of student and campus culture. AHS began in 2018 with 3 different teams as an after-school club ran by 22 students and a couple of very supportive teachers. Despite the upheaval of COVID-19 in 2020, AHS grew to about 100 students, and Humble ISD implemented its first CTE-supported esports course during the school day that focused on the now nearly $2 billion industry. This year, AHS esports classes and clubs include over 275 students, supported by 5 student-focused teachers and sponsors. On the competitive level, AHS fielded, and bear with me, it's a list, 3 Rocket League teams, 3 Overwatch teams, 3 Valorant teams, including a nationally recognized all-girls team, 2 Rainbow Six Siege teams, 1 League of Legends team, 1 Halo team, and between 35 and 45 Super Smash Bros. Teams. These teams were successful in many ways on multiple local, state, and national stages. The biggest of these being our national champions, Rainbow Six Siege team that we honor tonight. Many of these students have or are entertaining collegiate and professional offers. The Atascocita High School Rainbow Six Siege team, composed of Cameron Fox, Fabian Flores, Gavin Schaefer, and then with us tonight, Matthew Mato and Wee Win, defeated Hollins High on May 14th with a 3-0 win at the High School Esports League's National Grand Final. This is the program's first ever national championship. Also with them tonight is their sponsor, Miss Ann Weirman. Please come forward and be recognized at this time. I will just mention as they're walking back, either one or both of these gentlemen have already received some offers to turn pro, which means that you may not know them, but your kids are going to know them really soon. And they're going to be watching them on YouTube. So, in the fall, Humble ISD will expand its campus esports programs into a multi-year coherent sequence of courses, culminating in a practicum experience designed around the management and hosting of large-scale competitions. This will continue to expand the scholarship, professional, and educational opportunities for all Humble ISD esports students. These courses, clubs, and teams provide a home for a variety of students, but most importantly, establish a meaningful home for students who may not participate in other mainstream activities and who deserve the same positive social emotional connections. We are eager to watch Humble ISD esports students be the future leaders of this expected $6.4 billion industry by 2030. The CTE department also wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate CTE students across the district for earning nearly 5,700 certifications in the 22-23 school year. This includes 4,907 skill and resume building certificates such as OSHA and ICAR collision, but most impressively, this also includes 775 TEA identified job-ready industry-based certifications such as patient care technician, FAA drone pilots, certified veterinary assistants, AWS sheet metal welding, and many more. This represents a 74% increase in these TEA industry-based certifications for Humble ISD, and the most that Humble ISD has ever achieved. Naturally, none of this could be accomplished without our amazing teachers and the unique opportunities that they offer in their classrooms. Congratulations again to all of our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. LeSueur, for sharing all that information, and congratulations to all of our Humble ISD students who received their certifications in their respective fields at the end of the 22-23 school year. I'm proud to say I have heard of Smash Brothers. So the rest of those, maybe not. But I do applaud those who are so talented in this area. And I want to let you, I'm on the UIL Legislative Council, which is a statewide council of superintendents who do policy work and things for the University Interscholastic League. And they're actually studying right now adding esports as a UIL activity sport. I'm not really sure, but in the end, it's really on a fast track, I think. So congratulations to you all, and to all of our students who have received industry-based certifications, and to Larkin LeSueur and his team, because obviously without their work, creating pathways and programs for students, we couldn't have such an increase in our school district of students earning those certifications. So very, very proud of that work. All right, there's more to celebrate. I am very proud to recognize Paris Kimball of Atascocita High School, the state champion in the women's 6A shot put. Come on up, Paris. Coach Karen LaCour-Reed, Atascocita women's track and field coach, is here to tell us more about this extraordinary accomplishment.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Karen LaCour-Reed, the head girls track and field coach at Atascocita High School. I'm here to recognize my amazing athlete, Paris Kimball. If you know her, it's to love her. She's amazing. She's never met a stranger. She's very outgoing, always willing to help others, a leader on our team. This season, Paris had an awesome season. She was our shot put district champion and discus champion. She was our area shot put champion. She was our regional shot put champion. And she was also our 2023 Girls 6A state champion this year. She won state with a throw of 45 feet, 6 3/4 inches, which is also our new girls' school record as well. Paris will be attending the University of Houston on a full track and field scholarship next season. So we are very proud of you, and we are here to present you with your recognition plaque. Let's go. And a family, if y'all would like to come up as well.
So Paris comes in the boardroom tonight. I'm sitting here and everything's getting started. She walks up, she goes, "Do you remember shaking my hand at graduation?" I said, I shook over 3,400 hands at graduation. She goes, "Oh, okay, well, I was the one who said it was nice to meet you." I said, "I should remember that." So anyway, she's famous. I should have known. But congratulations, Paris. You're really quite a wonderful person. And we're very proud to have you, so thank you very much. She says we're twins because we both have bangs. I said, I've had mine since 1992. She goes, "Well, you got me there." Anyway, there we go. That concludes tonight's recognitions.
Thank you very much. And congratulations to all the students. And I did say the culinary arts teachers look like students.
Yes, many of them do now.
Yeah. The next item is public comment. The board encourages comments from citizens of the district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so following the procedure outlined on the agenda. The board asks that comments pertain to public education issues and be no longer than 1 minute. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda for tonight's meeting. If an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion until the appropriate time during the meeting. In addition, the board has adopted complaint policies that are designed to secure, at the lowest administrative level, a prompt and reputable resolution of complaints and concerns. Complaints brought by our students or their parents, by employees, and by citizens may be heard in accordance with board policies. Each of these processes provides that if a resolution cannot be achieved administratively, the person may appeal the administrative decision to the board as a properly posted agenda item. Copies of our district policies on public participation in meetings and filing complaints are available on the Humble ISD website. Okay, our first speaker this evening is Judith Bautista.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, Dr. Fagan. What I experienced at graduation brought frustration, sadness against only the Latino community. To be deprived of something you work, sacrifice, and earn, and to be snatched from that is unacceptable. For years, I fought with passion to promote cultural diversity, for language maintenance. To see my honor students taken away from that stole signifies the lack of cultural sensitivity toward the Latinos. A student can only be American to obtain their diploma. A student can represent and portray their heritage and cultural background to walk the stage and demonstrate their parents' sacrifice and hard work. We are a nation created by immigrants. Latinos are the majority of Humble. Superintendent Fagan, I am here with passion for my community and heart for my profession, and I'm asking for help for our Latino community. Graduation policies should be updated. These students have been marked with trauma and humiliation. Let's not future ones do.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Dr. Sergio Lira.
Where's your 1 minute timer? Okay.
I believe, does it turn yellow at 30 seconds? Is that correct?
I
At 10 seconds, it's yellow. Yes, sir.
Do you know that Catholic priests, they kiss the Bible, they kiss the altar, and they kiss their sash? Because it's sacred in our community. It really is. And it's something that's symbolic in our community. And I know, board members, you have 3 duties. One is to hold the superintendent accountable for student outcomes and communication with the community and her staff. 2, approve the budget. 3, create policy. I'm asking you today to create a policy that will be called the Honor Students Policy. Because once you create this policy, you would always approve, and we won't ever have this incident of really emotionally harming students, their families, and their community. So the solution is very simple. Have a diverse administration, Dr. Fagan, and I guarantee this would not happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Lira.
Mi primera pregunta es si ustedes tienen quién puede traducirme porque yo hablo más español.
Yes, we do. Do you need a translator?
¿Puedo tener ese servicio?
Sí.
Gracias.
And Madam President, for the purposes of translation, we would have double the time for a speaker who needs the translation service.
Okay, is there, Rusty, can you extend the time so that we can have time for a translator? Yes, thank you.
Primeramente quiero decirles que el 53.3% de estudiantes aquí en ambos son latinos.
First, I want to say that 53.3% of the students in Humble ISD are Hispanic.
Segundo, en lo que yo hablo, me gustaría que vieran esa pantalla, donde está la misión.
Second, while I speak, I want you to look at the screen and see the mission.
La falta de representación racial o cultural conduce al refuerzo de estereotipos.
The lack of representation, racially and cultural, conducts. ¿Qué quiere decir con esto?
La falta de representación racial.
Ajá. ¿Qué quiere decir con esto? El esfuerzo del estereotipos.
De que no hay representación.
That there's no. She wants to say that the lack of representation, racial and cultural, are affecting. ¿Qué está afectando? Okay.
Especialmente crea cosas negativas hacia los grupos raciales o culturales.
It creates negative things against racial groups and cultural groups.
Mírense uno a los otros si aquí hay algún representante hispano o latino.
Look at the board members and see if there's a Hispanic member.
No ver una representación positiva de los grupos no representados puede llevar a los niños a creer que los estereotipos negativos de estos grupos son correctos.
Okay, déjeme leerlo. Okay, not to see a representation in the as a Hispanic representation is not a positive thing for the group. ¿Qué quiere decir con esto? Que no una representación que no es hispana no ayuda
You
a
have
los niños.
10 more seconds.
Podemos
please.
ver que la traducción aquí no es correcta porque no sabe traducir de español a inglés. No es que no sabes, es que no, a lo mejor no has recibido el entrenamiento.
Nacida y criada en Puerto Rico. Solo estoy tratando de entender lo que quiere decir.
Sí, pero no. She cannot help me because she doesn't know how to translate. She didn't receive maybe any training. But what I want to tell you, and I'm going to say it in English, because
10 seconds and your time is up. We have, when you need a translator, we have 2 minutes rather than 1, and the time has expired. Is that correct? Yes. So basically what happens in a situation like this is we are going to have to move on to the next speaker because we have to stick to a certain amount of time based on each speaker. And we do give extended time when we need a translator.
you didn't give me what I was needed. And that's what happened in the graduation time. You didn't give the kids what they were needed.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we will have David Cruz.
So the time is right here. Good evening. I'd like to read the names of the Honor Roll 20 who experienced what has been spoken about tonight. Olivia Silva, Kevin Gonzalez, Haley Hernandez, Sergio Cabrera, Selvin Rene Hernandez, Xochitl Jude Diaz Ortiz, Sofia Plata, Yoritza Salmon, Ansa West, Cynthia Sanchez, Leila Annalise González, Ángeles Martínez, Miranda Rodríguez, Cynthia Cuellar, Kalen Barcenas, Zaeli Lara, Leslie Zúñiga, Natalia Torravillas, Allison Escobar Flores, Joanna Joaquin. These names were written by the teacher. I want to thank her for her service. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Augustine Piñero.
Good afternoon, Dr. Fagan and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I'm here to speak to the Spanish honors students that were not allowed to wear their sash or their stole during graduation ceremonies. It was a source of pride for them and for their family. You know, that reminds me of many, many years ago when I myself went to school, elementary and high school. Back then, we were swatted for speaking Spanish anywhere on campus. We were punished, usually by swatting. And it saddens me that things have not changed a whole lot, that there's still a lot of cultural not acceptance, lack of acceptance. There is mistrust on anything that's Mexican or Spanish. Keep in mind that we were here hundreds of years before settlers came. This is Mexican territory, okay? And, you know, we are loyal Americans, but at the same time, we want our culture.
Thank you. Dr. Yvonne Martinez.
Good evening. The Humble ISD school board election cycle is complete. In totes, House Bill 221 to make school board elections partisan did not pass. It is pertinent that the community and school board trustees accept that one primary purpose of having a nonpartisan school board is to ensure that students and staff are not subjugated to the divisiveness that has become the pathetic norm in the past couple of years. Each student and staff member, irrespective of their race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, income status, marital status, age, etc., deserves to be in an environment that encourages the learning, the growth, and the abilities for our students to become productive citizens in this world and not just in this area. Of the 1,065 book challenges in 21-22, 66% of them were filed by 11 people. Allowing people to read, learn should not be hindered. Texas has the 4th lowest literacy rate, with almost 1 in 5 adults lacking basic prose literacy skills. In the US, 54% of Americans between 16 and 74 years old read below a 6th grade level. Reading is fundamental.
Thank you. Next, we have Lori Flores.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. What happened to the Spanish Honorable 20 students whose stoles were taken from them during their graduation ceremony is indicative of a fear that continues to permeate through our country, a fear that possibly our indigenous people will rise to a level of upper hierarchy. Your current Board of Trustees has no indigenous members. It seems that every board of a student body should be demonstrative of the student bodies they represent. Humble ISD is 53.3% indigenous, and that number should be represented on your board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Beth Guide, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Guide, thank you.
My name's Beth Guide. I'm here representing Kingwood. As leaders, you need to set an example for the students that you serve. Choosing a president should follow those rules, and rules should not be changed because it's politically expedient to do so. You need to honor the 3-year rule too on this. Therefore, Robert Scarfo received nearly 65% of the votes cast at the previous election and is the only one of the 2 trustees that is eligible to serve as president in this upcoming term. I believe you as a board have an obligation to honor the vote and seat Mr. Scarfo as the next president of Humble ISD. Should you elect to go in a different path, I believe there is a potential that this will come back and haunt anyone that attempts to use this position as a springboard for future political gain. Thank you.
Thank you. David Contreras.
Good evening, Dr. Fagan, Board of Trustees. My name is David Contreras. I'm the National LULAC historian. LULAC, also known as the League of United Latin American Citizens, was established 94 years ago with the goal of desegregating numerous public establishments. This included barbershops, beauty shops, swimming pools, restrooms, water drinking fountains, public dining places, and hotels. It is disheartening to witness a situation where nearly a century later, we find history repeating itself as Latinos find themselves fighting for their First Amendment rights as guaranteed by the Constitution and for representation on the school board.
Thank you. Next, we have Karen Livingston.
Good evening. What happened at Summer Creek graduation this year was not a miscommunication. Saying this offloading responsibility for hurting the hearts of the young people, my ESL students, it was an irresponsible lack of respect for the plans and achievements of a teacher and her students. Humble ISD is an exceptional education system. However, work needs to be done in cultural education and sensitivity by its own administration. We've been told already this district has 53% Latino population that we serve. It's time to laud and respect that. There needs to be more awareness, dialogue, representation of our greater number of POC in this district, and there needs to be translation offices in each school so that these things don't happen anymore. They're amazing kids. They're here to be educated, and that's what we should do, and we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Erica Henderson Davila.
Good evening, everybody. Erica was not able to be here today, but I am Layla Gonzalez. I was one of the 20 students, a part of the, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. A part of these.
I'm so sorry, but I don't think if you didn't sign up by noon to speak, you can't speak on someone else's behalf. Is that correct?
I
Legal?
believe so, Madam President, but the board is welcome to offer discretion on this item if you would prefer. The key is to be consistent with all speakers.
Okay, we will carry on. Go ahead.
Can I get my time restarted since it was interrupted?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I apologize for that. But as a student who formerly went to Summer Creek and recently graduated, it was very embarrassing for my stole, to be ripped off of me as I was walking across the stage. At our school, it is not widely announced that there are any Latino clubs, any type of events that we host, or anything that goes on because of other things that are going on. They prioritize our sports events, they prioritize theater events, they prioritize basically everything other than anything within the minority group, because there are also other classes for, I'm sorry, I keep getting nervous, for other minorities too. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm just here to speak on the behalf of other students and to say what happened was not okay, and it should never be okay.
Thank you. Before you step away, excuse me. What is your name so I can put it down for the record? Thank you, Layla. Appreciate it. Okay, we will move on for comments by individual board members. I will start with Mrs. Parker.
Well, I'll keep it brief, but I want to congratulate Mr. Grabowski, Mr. Holmes, and Mr. Scarfo on their election, and congratulations. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Mr. Kirchhoffer?
Where's Mike? Mike, lean up there. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Yep. And Robert Scarfo, well done. And my good friend Marcus, well done. Running for office is not easy. You put yourself out there, and you put your family out there, and you need a lot of support. And so congratulations to all three of you, and look forward to serving with you.
Thank you. Mr. Sitton?
Yeah, I want to also congratulate my colleagues, Mr. Scarfo and Mr. Holmes, and my new colleague, Mr. Grabowski. I look forward to working with you. We had a lot of speakers tonight, Dr. Fagan. It's not on the agenda, so we can't comment. I would, hopefully you are going to address some of that because I think there is some miscommunication out there. My daughter was inducted into the Spanish Honor Society this year. And so I'll leave it at that, but I'd like for you to address some of that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes?
Yes, also want to say congratulations, Mr. Scarfo, Mr. Grabowski. Absolutely look forward to working with you. I want to echo the sentiments of Mr. Sitton. I think the overwhelming majority of the speakers on tonight are referencing, what happened during the Summer Creek graduation. I know it was I believe it was a miscommunication, but I also do believe that there is some healing that needs to take place. I think Dr. Fagan can help provide a lot more context. But again, completely understand the seriousness of it. Students that graduated, the teachers, those supporters, the parents, completely understand your frustration, but I think the administration can provide some context. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scarfo?
Thank you, Madam President. Congratulations, Mr. Holmes, Mr. Grabowski. Look forward to 4 years ahead. Thank you for sticking yourself out there to do it. It's not always so easy. And thank you for all the speakers who were here. Your words were not on deaf ears, and this whole issue is being looked at, so bear with us. And uncharacteristically, I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grabowski?
Well, congratulations as well, Mr. Holmes, Mr. Scarfo. It was a political boxing match at times and a learning adventure for many. I want to thank two people in particular that are out there. Mr. Stu Fagan, who did a lot of work, immeasurable off the charts, and my amazing bride, who sometimes I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and say, hey, what do you think about this? She said, I think you should think about it about 8 o'clock in the morning. So thank you all very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Scarfo, Mr. Grabowski, and Mr. Holmes. Looking forward to serving alongside all three of you. Also, thanks to the speakers. I know Dr. Fagan will speak on a lot of those things, but thank you so much for coming out to speak. And on a very personal note, I have to thank my board colleagues, especially, and several of you staff members in the audience. Thankfully, today, my father, who was in ICU from Friday until late last night, on the brink of potentially not being here this morning, totally made a move in the right direction and even asked for Whataburger. So, I just want to, thank you all for your support and your prayers. Definitely has been a very, very challenging few days. And I know a lot of you know my dad, so I appreciate the continued prayers as he moves towards recovery. Okay, our next item, comments by the administration. Dr. Fagan.
Thank you so much. Well, first, I want to thank all the speakers who are here tonight. Regardless of what the details are and all of those kind of things, and Mr. Scarfo's right, we're always looking into all of that. We never want any students to be sad or upset or any of those things at graduation. I did shake over 3,000 hands, and even on that very last one, when my arm is throbbing and I've said congratulations so many times, I'm not sure it's coming out of my mouth anymore, I still want that student to have that same experience. That same positive, exciting, big smile, solid handshake, to move across that stage and always remember that moment and to get them into place for Scott Tate to take a picture. And so that's a really important thing to me and to my team and to all the trustees up here. And so there does appear to be, a miscommunication because we had a Spanish National Honor Society at 4 schools, and 3 had very successful walks with chords and celebrations of those students and their work, and 1 seems to have a misunderstanding about stoles versus chords, and so we're working through all of that. But above all of that, and we do need to make sure that we take care of that, but above all of that, we do want to say to the students that we're very sorry that you had that experience. That would have never happened had there been knowledge that those had been approved by anyone. And so we feel very bad about that and want to do anything to make that right for the students and their families. And we'll continue to work with each one on what that might be, everything from, a different graduation photo and a different video and all of these kind of things. So I think that's the most important part, is to really help the students feel as much as we can that we want that moment to be right for them. And so I am proud of Mr. McDonald, Mr. Kramer, and others who have worked really hard, Scott Tate, to do everything that they can do, in the moment that we're in. And so, but we'll continue to brainstorm. I feel like our team is very creative and moves heaven and earth all the time for the needs of our students, and we will continue to do that because we want this to be a healing moment and move forward together as we have in the past. In addition to that, on a completely different note, we had our first PRISMS training, and so you have to understand that Dr. Ann Johnson calls me and she says, I have never seen a training like this for secondary teachers. I have never seen. So she's calling me because here's the problem. So we have 36 slots available for teachers, and she has over 85 teachers who want them. And so we have invited 2 of those teachers here tonight to share in their own words why they loved PRISMS training and why they're excited to move that project forward for their students. And so if we could start with Myra Cardenas, 8th grade math teacher, Kingwood Middle School. Come on up.
Hi. First of all, thank you, YSD, for giving me the opportunity to do this PRISM virtual reality training. After attending the PD, I was amazed on how much of the real life experience and scenarios it gives them while teaching them math. I'm also excited to have the opportunity for them to be in my classroom and be able to have the kids try this VR system. Humboldt ISD always wants us to have kids that are critical thinkers through productive struggles, overall well-rounded global citizens, just like our vision of Humboldt ISD. So this program does that. And so I'm excited and ready for these kids to be real lifelong learners. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Myra. And next we have, now I'm going to, Allie? Okay. Allie, no, so Allie, we've had this whole conversation because your official name is Ofa. And so when Melissa told me Allie, I said, are you sure? I want to make sure that I call her by her correct name.
Call me whatever you want.
No, I don't want to do that. So, Allie, Teo, biology, Atascocita High School, welcome.
Thank you for having me. You know, teachers, we're pitched a lot of things. A lot of times I'm like, oh, great. Here's another platform that we have to do. Prisms is the first one that I've actually completely bought in on day one. I really believe in what Ana Rupa is doing with her Prisms program. I think that most of my students are language learners, have an IEP, have learning disabilities, first-generation American like myself. And it's not an achievement gap, it's an access gap when it comes to STEM. And I believe that Prisms is gonna completely close that access gap for our students. I'm really excited. I'm like, come and see my classroom anytime.
Well, thank you so much, Allie, for the invitation. So I could have brought so many more. I could have brought 80 teachers. One of them said, pick me, pick me. So we actually have done a little bit of work where we can share the VR headsets among more teachers, and we have put on this board agenda an item to get a few more student licenses so that Humboldt ISD teachers who want to participate are able to do that without having to go and fundraise. Which is what they were going to do if we weren't going to allow them to continue forward. As they said, well, can we do a fundraiser? Can we write grants? And I would rather that we support them in what they would like to see happen for their students than ask them to go write grants to do that. So we've added more money to the budget, and it is actually on this board agenda, which allows me to talk to it a little bit more. And we're very excited about the future of math and science and potentially social studies in Humboldt ISD. So do you want to add anything, Melissa or Ann?
It was just exciting to see that many high school teachers that excited. I'm a former high school teacher, and we're a tough group. We really are. And so I think Allie spoke eloquently about it. And at the end of the training, we had to stick around for a few minutes because we wanted to share the commitment and also the intensive training they have to go through. They have to make that commitment. And nobody left. And we didn't know what to do. So we worked through a process. The principals were very helpful, but we've got great people like this that really want to provide new opportunities for kids and really help them make life more real-life experiences.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We will now have updates from board associations and committees. First committee is the Advocacy Committee. Mrs. Parker.
Nothing to report. I'm going to the advocacy update on Saturday, so I will have some information.
Thank you. Audit Committee, we're going to go ahead and skip that one. I don't think we have a report. Building and Planning Committee, Mr. Sitton.
Yeah, we met last week. We got an update on a lot of the construction projects going on this summer. There's a few items on the consent agenda for people to look at. Didn't get any questions over the weekend, so I'm assuming everything's good there. And like always, I hope that department enjoys their summer break because they don't get one.
Thank you. Board and Superintendent Evaluation Committee, nothing to report. Finance Committee, Mr. Scarfo.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the only thing to report is we don't have much to report because the legislature is still, Mr. Cunningham's not here, but it's not his fault. It's the other side of the building that's been delaying this. So we have our next Finance Committee set for June 29th. That's the latest I can ever remember us having a budget workshop to possibly adopt a budget right at the wire, which has to be June 30th. So we hope we'll have information. We're getting some. Hopefully we will have something to put in everyone's hands a week or so prior to that. I know Mr. Beatty and all his staff are working diligently to try to pull together whatever we can. We may be facing, though, having to approve a budget that we haven't approved in the past, and meaning as we spoke later, in the past, at the past meeting, we could be looking initially at a deficit budget, but hopefully that will go away quickly, I hope. So, but we have to pass a budget by the 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. Education Foundation, Mr. Kirchhoffer.
Thank you. On behalf of the Humble Education Foundation Board, I would like to give an update on who is serving on the executive committee for the 23-24 school year. Chair is Deborah Rose Miller. Vice Chair is Dr. Calandra Purvis. Treasurer is Danny Contreras. The two at-large positions will be held by Josh Morrison and Tracy Meath. There are 4 new board members joining the foundation this coming school year: Austin Bird, Nicole Bryan, Brittany Mittag, and Misty Rowe. There are 5 board members who are rolling off the foundation board after many wonderful years of service, and I would like to recognize these individuals: Amber Otelli with 4 years of service, Lynette Calfee with 11 years of service, Lisa Doty with 14 years of service, Mike Feld with 14 years of service, and Dr. Bonnie Longman, thank you, with 8 years of service. It's only 2 more pages. Collectively, thank you, Jerry. Collectively, these 5 people have given 51 years of service to the Education Foundation, and we couldn't be more grateful for the impact their leadership has made on this organization. The foundation has already recognized these individuals at their May meeting, but I just wanted to add one more thank you to each of them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Kingwood Super Neighborhood Council, Mr. Holmes.
No updates.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our action items. Item 4A, revision of the board operating procedures to allow all trustees to be eligible for board president if eligible candidates are not elected. Mr. Kirchhoffer, do I have a motion?
I move that the board revise the board operating procedures to allow all trustees to be eligible to be elected board president in the event that the eligible candidates identified by the board operating procedures are not elected.
Do I have a second?
Madam President,
I
move to table this item until action items 4B and 4C are considered and acted upon by the board.
At this time, there is a motion, but no second, and if Mr. Scarfo wishes to make a motion to table, we would need a second first. At that point, he would be able to make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Then I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? I will start actually because I'm the one that asked for this to be put on.
Excuse me, I made a motion to table this
Mr.
item.
Scarfo, you'd have to re-urge the motion at this time if you would like to do so.
Okay,
It was
well,
premature prior to the second.
Okay, well, then I'd like to move to table this item until actions item 4B and 4C are considered and acted upon by the board.
Is there a second? Seeing none,
I second the motion. I second the motion.
Okay, so first we need to vote on the,
On the motion to table, that's
Okay.
correct, Madam President. That is the pending motion on the floor.
okay, all those in favor to table the motion? All those opposed to table the motion? That motion fails. We have the original motion on the table. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Madam President, could you give us your rationale behind this?
Yes, so this was set to allow for a situation where we potentially, if there are only 2 people who are eligible to be president, which is Mr. Robert Scarfo and Mr. Robert Sitton, if, for instance, one or both, well, both, if both of them only receive 3 votes, my question to legal counsel, as you know, I have lots of questions when setting an agenda, was essentially what happens in that scenario. So essentially, then I would be remaining here and moving forward. We could potentially have special meetings, or this meeting could last till 2 a.m. until we come to an agreement to have a board president. So the reason that this item is here literally is just to prevent a situation where we could potentially be stuck with a 3-vote and a 3-vote, and then how do we move forward? And this item would need to be prior to the election of board president in order to not be out of order. Something would have to be on the agenda to make that happen. So that's why the agenda item is here. And just to be completely transparent here, a different board member did reach out to me with that question, and I was like, oh, I wonder what does happen in that situation. So had a call with legal to understand a little bit better about what would happen if you had two board members who are eligible, but yet neither one of them had 4 votes. How do you proceed? So essentially, it was listed here to clean up what we passed in the fall. For example, if you think about one of the things that we placed in our board operating procedures was if there was not someone who had 3 years of experience, that we would move to 2 years. If we did not have someone with 2 years of experience, we would move to 1 year to allow those people to be eligible. So for me personally, putting this on the agenda, the concept was the same. What happens if you have 2 people who have 3 years of experience and neither get a 4-count vote, then what happens? This would allow someone with 2 years or 1 year to now also be eligible. And that's why that word "if" in the language is very important. It is only if the eligible candidates are not elected. Any other discussion?
So by approving this, it doesn't change or alter our process. It's only if I heard you correctly, it's only if one person doesn't get 4 votes, the majority vote. Is that?
If the eligible candidates based on our current operating procedures, which essentially are you, Mr. Sitton, and Mr. Scarfo.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
And I want to apologize to Ms. Marr and Ms. Dixon. While this is open, and I did not plan anything, but as long as this is on the table, I would like to amend the motion in order to alleviate any concern of not having an eligible president, to amend BDAA local to reflect the language prior to the 1025-22 amendment, which would reinstate the longstanding rotation practice of this board. And because he was skipped in the rotation, I further move that the rotation begin with Mr. Robert Scarfo for president.
So we can take that and have a second, is that correct?
That's correct, Madam President. There is a motion to amend on the table, and at this point, we're asking for a second to see if there's a continuation of that. I will note, however, Ms. Parker, a slight modification. The rotation was never in BDAA local. It was in the board operating procedures, but I'm getting that may have been where your intention lay, is to amend the board operating procedures.
Yes, and I wrote that motion in the car in the parking lot here at 5:27, so my apologies.
So is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, any discussion? I do have a question about the motion, Mrs. Parker. Is it, when you say go back, you're talking about going all the way back? Are you talking about 1 year? Like do we need more specification? Ms. Marr?
To repeal the changes made October 15th, 2022 to the cessation of officers' position among the trustees and replace it with the language contained in this section of the BOPs dated 9/10/19.
So that is going all the way back to where it was prior
Correct.
to the change? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Grabowski.
On this issue, I want us to look at a little history. A year ago this month, the board changed its operations procedures and policies. It went from rotation, which worked for years and years, to an election. In October, it was then codified. With this board's responsibility to be for the outcome of educational benefits to children or safety for those same children in the schools, as well as the teachers, the staff, the auxiliary personnel, what has this rule done to increase either of those? And now, here we find ourselves, yet again, ready to alter these rules. I believe they were wrong then. I will think an alteration tonight is also wrong. I think we should go back to rotation, and I think Mr. Scarfo should be the president of the board. Thank you. I'm just agreeing with you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, so just a little bit of clarity, Madam President. So when we say go back, which, again, I want to make an informed decision. So would that mean the motion is that Mr. Scarfo would get the full 3 years, since we're rolling it back, right? Because I think, was it 3 years as president, or was it still?
No, 1
It was
year.
1 year, that's right. So 1 year, take it back to the original, and as of, you could say, this board meeting, Mr. Scarfo would be president for the next 12 months. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I apologize, Madam President, I may have confused the issue slightly when I addressed Ms. Parker earlier. If the board's intention is to go back and make changes, it would be to both BDAA and the operating procedures. To the extent the board is looking to go back to a 1-year term of office for the board officers in addition to the rotation. Is that correct, Ms. Parker? I apologize to the extent
Back to the original language, and forgive me, but there was some language about all being equal, equally elected by the voter, and whatever the original language was, reverting back to the language.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Scarfo?
the reason I had written out a motion, the reason I handed it to Ms. Parker, and I was trying to do it to make it the least confusing, but basically it was, as she wrote, to move to repeal the changes made in October of 2022 to bring us back to September of 2019, including that, which I think is very important language, which, and I'll read it, and it says, assumptions, all people elected to the board are equally capable of fulfilling leadership roles on the board. Sharing of the leadership roles on the board increases the dedication and effectiveness of all board members. And I think the only thing I would suggest we might change to that is we all had agreed that parliamentarians should be part of the rotation, an elected office, not appointed. And there's language in the September 2019 succession of officers section that says is an appointed position. So I would just add that we should strike that. I mean, if everybody's in agreement, because that would get us to, everybody wants the parliamentarian to be part of the rotation and not, it's not an afterthought.
So is that language part of the BDAA local and
No,
board
Madam
operating
President,
procedures?
nor was it from the original operating procedures. To the extent that Mr. Scarfo wishes to have that change, I think that would be either another amendment to the amendment, or it would be another motion after we get through the pending matter. Certainly an easy thing to fix, but it was not part of those original
Right.
procedures.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Sitton?
Yeah, so everything in our operating procedures and everything in these policies have assumptions at the bottom, every single one of them, and they all assume certain things. In this case, it does not assume that everyone is capable or doesn't guarantee an officer position. It says a leadership position. That could mean a committee chairperson. That could mean parliamentarian. That could mean any officer position for that matter. It's just an assumption that the community is right. They voted the 7 of us into office, and we're all capable of serving this community. That's what the assumption is.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, the only
Mr.
reason I...
Scarfo, you recognize?
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you. I'm sorry, Madam President. The only reason I said that is because it wasn't it's not currently in the October 15, 2022 version. And I was just suggesting that we make sure that's also part of that repeal, because it's two different sections. It's two different sections.
Yes.
Yeah, my understanding is we would simply just revert back to that version of the operating procedures that existed at that moment.
Okay. Anyone on my left here? Any comments? I'm good. Okay. Okay, well, I do have a comment. So I just want to clarify, because this has been a very, very long year. So initially, and look, I'm just going to be completely transparent here. Initially, in April of last year, a board member reached out to me and essentially was concerned, Mr. Scarfo, about your leadership in leading us in thinking that you did not represent the board. I talked that person off the fence. I said, we can have a board member be president for a year, and any of us can work with someone for a year. In June, the same board member reached out to me again with concerns about some of the actions that you had. I, again, tried to talk that person off the fence. I just want to be very clear that in that entire process, and I hope you can agree with me publicly today, I was never against you. I was always neutral. On the board, when we discussed this, you had someone who was a friend, and then you had someone who was very neutral, and I was that person. So I have taken a lot of flack over the last year, but I was neutral, and you, I think, have made it seem publicly that that may not have been the case. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record. I can move forward because, look, honestly, at the time, I tried to talk people off the ledge in order to supporting you for 1 year as board president. So I can move and be a part of this idea of moving forward and going back to the way things used to be with you being president for a year. I am okay with that. But I would also like you to know, just publicly, that some of those things where people are just not privy to because it's not public knowledge, to be mindful of that going forward. Because it's one thing to be here and say things on the dais during board comment, but it's very different when some board members have noted things behind the scenes. So I'm saying this out of respect, Mr. Scarfo. I'm not saying this to say anything bad, but I just want for the record for people to know, number one, I was never against you being president. And you see she's shaking her head. I was not. I was neutral. And then number two, I just think we all need to have mutual respect here. In Humble ISD, we need to get back to focusing on the students in this district and doing the right thing at all times. And that is the type of person that I have always been. So for you, I think it has been challenging for me because I was never against you, and I never have been. But it has been challenging to take the heat from everybody thinking it's Martina when it is not. It is not. Mr. Scarfo.
Yeah, Madam President, if that's what you're telling me, I accept you at your word.
No, I said it then. You do know. Not what
No,
I'm telling you today.
Well, okay.
I have told you all along the way, when we were first making this decision, I never was against you.
Okay, I say I accept that.
Mr. Sitton?
And for the record, I was not the board member that came to you.
That is true, too. It was not Mr. Sitton. I will confirm that. Mr. Sitton has never come to me to say that you did not represent him. It was not him.
Well, then it narrows it down to two people.
Well, now, hang on. And with that said, as long as I've been on the board, I've made decisions and I have voted. The only time I've ever abstained from a vote was when my financial services firm was positioned to do a bond, be part of a bond council, or not council, bond sale. It's the only time I've ever abstained. Every decision I make from this table has zero to do with the next election. Zero to do with any election for that matter. From the time I was elected 12 years ago, people were saying, well, what's he going to run for next? What's he going to run for next? I told everybody then, I'm here to make Humble ISD the best school district it can be, make this community the best community it can be, period, end of story. When I was elected 2 years ago, and I went back and looked at the video, and I said, Dan Huberty is here to swear me in because he swore me in for the first time, and I'm going to let him swear me in for the last time. I have 2 years left on this term. I have 2 years left on this board. That'll be 14 years of service to this community, 14 years of living in a freaking fishbowl, and taking arrow after arrow after arrow from people that don't know what we do. Don't have a clue, but they have an opinion, and that's fine. That's what makes the world go round. Everybody can have their own opinion. But how we come together as a body and move forward is what it's all about. And things that have happened, things that have been said, I've got a real problem with it. I've heard people say that if so-and-so doesn't, if Mr. Scarfo doesn't get elected, we're going to burn the district down. If Mr. Scarfo doesn't get it, if Mr. Scarfo
I've heard
doesn't,
that too, actually.
if Mr.
Yeah.
Scarfo doesn't get elected, be careful with your next election. So those things have been said. That is not an embellishment. And so it is what it is at this point. Okay? But I will vote the way I think I need to vote based on the future of Humble ISD.
Well, a year ago at this June board meeting, I sat down next to Dr. Fagan and I said, this is my last meeting as board president. Yay. So I will say one outcome that I knew was going to happen today is that that actually was going to come to fruition. But thank you all for allowing me to serve another year. Okay, so we need to vote on the amended motion.
Correct. Madam President, the motion on the floor is to amend item 4A to revise the board operating procedure and board policy BDAA to the language as it existed prior to the October 15th, I believe, October 15th amendment to those items. And additionally, elect Mr. Scarfo as board president. Is that correct, Ms. Parker?
And so
Yes.
then, once we vote, if the motion passes, then item 4B and 4A and 4B are null and void. Is that?
The pending motion would address both item 4A and 4B in one, or really two actions by the board. First, to approve the amendment, and then to approve the original motion as amended.
Okay. So we have an amended motion on the table. It has been seconded. Any further discussion before I move for a vote? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions?
President, might I, before I
Mr.
vote,
Holmes, I apologize. Discussion on this item has ended, and the board president has called for the vote.
So can I repeat the vote? Or does Mr. Holmes just need to state his position?
If Mr. Holmes would state his position, that's fine, but Madam President, it's just as fine to go through the roster call again.
Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? The motion passes 6-1.
And at this time, Madam President, the board would need to vote on the original motion as amended simply for parliamentarian reasons, though the substance of the motion has now passed.
So to move forward in the way that we are moving, would we be voting in the affirmative on the original motion or
The original
against?
motion as amended would effectively be the same vote you all took.
Okay.
But it helps Ms. Martin and myself note it in the minutes a little bit more cleanly.
Okay, so all those in favor of the original,
Would be the same as those who were in favor to the amended motion.
okay.
Correct.
So all those in favor
Of the original
Of the
motion.
original motion.
As amended. As amended.
as amended. All those opposed? Same sign. Okay, so now we will take a, I would say, 10-minute.
At this time, Madam President, I would recommend doing the selection of the remaining board officers, item 4C, in terms of the rotation.
Oh,
Typically, we have the
okay,
vote
okay,
approve that rotation,
okay.
even though it is specified in operating procedures.
Okay. Yes. Do you have I don't have a motion. Do you have a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Kirchhoffer.
I move to approve the selection of the following Board of Trustee officers for a one-year term pursuant to Board Policy BDAA and the Board Operating Procedures. Chris Parker as Vice President, Ken Kirchhoffer as Secretary, and Robert Sitton as Parliamentarian.
Parliamentarian, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. So with that vote, Mr. Robert Scarfo will now take over as board president. So we will take a 10-minute recess to rearrange. Thank you.
Was that too wimpy? Okay. The meeting's called back to order. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is action item 5A, personnel recommendations. Mr. Sitton, would you provide us with a motion for that?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the administration's personnel recommendations as presented in closed session with addendum.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Okay, now we'll move to the consent agenda. Let's see. Okay, first item, A, approval of minutes for the regular board meeting held on Tuesday, May 9, 2023. That's consent. B, approval of minutes for the special board meeting held on Monday, May 15, 2023. That's consent. Approval of minutes for the special board meeting held on Wednesday, May 17, 2023. That's consent. Approval of minutes for the special board meeting held on Tuesday, May 23, 2023. That's consent. Bond fund transfers and amendments. Consent. Budgetary transfers and amendments. Consent. Approval of goods, professional services, and non-construction services exceeding $50,000 in the aggregate or $25,000 individually. It's consent. H, 2022-23 construction and construction-related purchases. It's consent. I, tax refunds. Consent. J, extension of bank depository contract. That's consent. Board authorization of interlocal agreements. That's consent. L, approval of RFP number 2021-006R, educational service consultants. It's consent. Item M, approval of RFP number 2021-007R06, educational and curriculum subscriptions, internet and web database access and software. It's consent. N, approval of RFP number 2022-011, miscellaneous instructional materials. That's consent. O, approval of RFP number 2023-102, services, repairs, maintenance, installation, district-wide. That's consent.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Ms. Mayor, in 6N, the numbers were not read out correctly.
Correct. However, since they were printed appropriately in the agenda, I didn't make the correction, but you are correct. For item N, it's approval of RFP 2022-101. I believe just two of the numbers were
Yeah, I
inverted.
just wanted to make sure we were going to be compliant when we vote.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. O, approval of RFP number 2023-102, services, repairs, maintenance, installation, district-wide. P, approval of RFP number 2023-103, school safety, products and services. Q, nomination of a candidate for TASB Board of Directors, Region 4, Position A seat. R, nomination of candidate for TASB Board of Directors, Region 4, Position B seat. I wanted to pull that one. S, change order number 2, North Bend Elementary Replacement Project. T, deductive change orders. U, consideration of professional services. V, low attendance day waiver for 2022-23 school year. W, 2023 2024 Optional Flexible School Day Program. Okay, that's consent as well. Mr. Sitton, would you please read those consent agenda items back in the form of a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that the board approve consent agenda items 6A through 6W with the exception of pulled item 6R.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. 7-0. Okay. And going back to the item R, I was the one who pulled that. And it's for the TASB board position, not the one for Mr. Holmes, because him I know. But this person, there was nothing, and maybe I missed it, and you guys can tell me if I did, but there was no information about the individual. I know they're running for re-election, but I just hate voting for somebody blindly, and as I do when I vote in other, I'll just not vote if I don't know either the or know anything about either of the candidates.
Mr.
So-
Scarfo, I apologize. There's no motion on the floor at this point for the board to open up discussion. I would
Okay.
recommend that the board president call for a motion, see if there's a second, and then the board can fully discuss the item.
Okay, I thought we had gotten a second for it, but, okay, no, I'm sorry. Okay, so do we have a motion for item R from the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, and I apologize. Yeah, so that was what I said. I don't know there was no information about the person, so I just wanted to know before I raise my hand and vote for them that who I'm voting for. So if we can.
I can share a little
Yeah,
bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
She currently serves on the A-Leaf ISD School Board, and she's running for re-election. Initially, when we voted for her, when she originally was applying or running for this seat, Lori Toomey, our former board member, had a very long relationship with her from the time they were on the board together and spoke highly of the person that we're considering. I have also gotten to know her over time, and there are, a better way to say it, I guess, is there are some things that we're trying to consider changing within some of the beliefs and things like that, and I know she is pretty much on board to kind of help us move those things along. So when we were just setting the agenda, I know her name was out there, and I listed her. But if the board does not want to support her, that's fine, but that's, she's an A-Leaf ISD. I know they've always supported our school district when I served on behalf of the school district for HCAD. And we have voted for her in the past, every time, and a lot of that was based on her relationship with Ms. Toomey.
And I apologize, Ms. Parker. The motion that you were making was the same one as what was listed in recommended action. So the motion to nominate Darlene Bro for the Region 4 Position B seat on the Texas Association of School Board of Directors. Is that correct?
Sounds good.
Any other discussion on that item? Okay. So having none, we have the motion on the table and a second. All those in favor? Okay. And thank you, Ms. Lamont Dixon. Like I said, I just wanted some information so that you provided it, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, the next item we have is under action items, item A, board meeting procedures, comments by individual board members, and public comment. May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we approve it's not an approval, is it?
That's correct, Mr. Sitton. The administration has no recommendation on this item as it is a matter of board governance.
Okay, then so moved.
Is there a second?
So moved. I apologize. What is the motion? What is?
I'm trying to open it for discussion.
For Mr. Sitton, in order to open it for discussion, we would need someone to make a motion, whether it's to keep the same or no motion at all, to move along on the item, but we would need a trustee to make a motion in order to begin the discussion.
Ms. Barr?
I apologize. Mr. Scarfo acknowledges the speakers at this point.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Can I clarify why it was added to the agenda, or no?
You certainly can add that detail. I just caution the board in terms of it. For parliamentarian reasons, we would recommend a motion be on the floor for the board to discuss.
I move a change to the board meeting comments by individual board members and public comment.
Do we have a second? Mr. Kirchhoff, second. Okay, discussion?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Scarfo, yes. So I wanted to just share that it was listed initially as possible action, so no action has to be taken at all. It's just there just in case we wanted to have this discussion.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And I'll let you carry that forward.
Right. No, and that was something we had as an informational item at the last meeting during the budget workshop. Mr. Sitton wasn't able to be here at that one, so he didn't get a chance to opine or give his feelings either way on this item. And other board members, now that it's actually an action item, we can make a decision as to eliminating board comment or limiting board comment or any other thing, and talk about the public side of that comment as well. So I think that's what's on the floor for discussion. So if anyone would like to give their opinions on this matter. Mr. Sitton.
Yeah, so I wasn't here to hear the discussion. My thoughts on this, and I went back and looked at a lot of board meetings, and I looked at other board meetings. Some boards do have a spot for public comment or for board member comment, basically to say things like, they visited a culinary arts studio at a school, or they went to a manners banquet and, really talked about the good things that were going on. And what I've seen over the years is and I'm as guilty as anybody, we've used this platform as to state a political stance. And, I didn't put this up here, but that was what I would have said if I'd have been at that meeting, that if we can keep our comments more laser focused on students, on Humble ISD and what we do and how we do it, and not make it a political platform, by eliminating it, it doesn't give us an opportunity to spread the good word, but it also doesn't give us the opportunity to use this as a pulpit for our own personal gain. And there's really no way to police that unless you change policy and have some strict language in there. Then, the waters start getting muddied at that point. So you really have two options. You either keep it just like it is and always has been, and it's the Wild Wild West. Everybody says what they want to for however long they want to, and then it just goes around the table, or you cut it out altogether. That really is your two options, the way I see it, because I've never really seen specific language that would incorporate what I'm talking about. Or I would amend the motion to say that, but I haven't seen anything. They either do it or they don't. So if we keep it, what I'd like to see is let's stick to, let's cut out the crap. Let's get back to what we do. And that's focus on the kids, focus on the teachers, focus on the community, and get rid of all the political stuff.
Can we talk?
Thank you, Mr. Sitton.
Sir, go ahead.
Mr. Kirchhoff?
Can we talk about public comments too at the same time, or no?
Yeah, because
Yes.
both items
Yeah.
there, public and.
I'd like to see us go through how long they talk, 3 minutes. That's how long we talk. Or just have discretion like Robert said. But I'd like the public to at least go to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I agree with Mr. Kirchhoffer, and I'm a First Amendment person, and I think that everybody should have the right to say what they want to say, and I do think that we should go back to 3 minutes, but I'm also a meeting efficiency person, and I think that if you have 10 people speaking, then they get 3 minutes. If you have 15 people speaking, they get 2 minutes. If you have more than that speaking, then they get 1 minute, so that we're trying to keep obviously we can't set public comment for 30 minutes, but we're trying to have an efficient meeting and do something like that. And then I think maybe self-govern our own comments to about 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Ms. Lamont Dixon?
Two things. So one, personally, I think the board comment, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I mean, I just think about the fact that you have an opportunity where you could essentially begin deliberating on a topic. So I do think about that from a legal standpoint, because I do think if one board member says something that now states that another person on the board can't say anything about that particular topic, which puts us in a very precarious position legally, and or it silences one board member where they can't speak to something that another board member has spoken to. So that's how I feel about it, but I think ultimately, I really think we shouldn't vote on this topic. I think it should just be left to the board president, because there are a lot of variables when it comes to both of these scenarios. And, depending if Harvey hits or COVID or whatever, I think you need the flexibility to adjust depending on that particular scenario. So I don't think we should make changes necessarily, but I do think we really need to think about board comments and how that feels and looks, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes, thank you. President Scarfo, I think for me, I'm still going to go with, I think we should bring back the 3 minutes. And I think that board members should have no comment. And the reason why is we're looking at 7 board members. If we're averaging 3 minutes, that's another 21 minutes that this administration is here. While again, I am so on board about, echoing all of the great things we're doing, but we have a social media team that does a great job. Dr. Fagan has the magical moments at the beginning, and I just don't think it's necessary. Again, it's another 20 minutes. And we're really doing what? That's already out there on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. We do a great job on Twitter because I follow everything. So I just think it's unnecessary. That's just my opinion.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so on the 3 minutes, I want to respect the chair. I don't think it's something we should legislate from here. I like 3 minutes. Prior to COVID, we were at 5 minutes, and we didn't have the buzzer, and there were people that went 6, 7, 8 minutes. Okay, so I don't want to pigeonhole us and say, if we have so many people, it's only 3 minutes. If we have so many people, it's only 1, and so forth. If we only have one person that shows up to speak, and they've got 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever that number is, and they're in mid-sentence of a thought, let them finish that thought. Okay? That's what we used to do. Now, when COVID hit, we ended up with 50 or 60 speakers at times. So that's when we went to 1 minute. When we hired Dr. Fagan and we had the infamous town hall, we were here till after midnight, and everyone got 1 minute apiece. I mean, there's a reason that we give the flexibility to the president, and we respect the chair for that flexibility. And I respected Ms. Dixon when she moved it to 1 minute, and I was not going to speak out against her because I respected that chair. So whatever you decide in that chair for public comment, is I will respect that as well.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Mr. Grabowski, any comments on it?
Yeah, I agree with what Mr. Sitton just said. I think you should have that responsibility to set the record based on how many speakers there will be, what the topic is, and your experience to keep the meeting flowing at a great pace.
Well, thank you. I mean, those are some really, great ideas and feelings I share too. I had made notes for myself, and I made some of these comments last time we spoke about comments at the last board meeting. Yeah, I would agree that we as a group have to police ourselves in terms of what we talk about, and I'd like to see us try to limit it to, and Mr. Sitton and I are in agreement here with, student, staff accomplishments, district community events that are going on, especially when we talk about the Education Foundation and other things that happen in the district. But as Mr. Holmes says, most of that information, almost all that information is out there. But if there's a particular thing that strikes your fancy as a board member, you just want to give it a little bit of a shout out, I think that's fine. I guess I do differ in what some board members feel as far as addressing a public speaker if somebody says something. And I think what both I said and I think Mr. Sitton did and or I'm sorry, maybe it was Mr. Holmes only, and I speaking about with the speakers who talked about the honor sash. I think that's okay because we're not getting into a deliberation, and I think it was okay that more than one person said that and said, hey, you're heard. I think that's a good thing. So I'm okay with that. I like the idea, Mrs. Parker says, we probably should have some sort of parameter that the board chair can use depending on how many people sign up for a given night, because I like the 3 minutes. I think that gives people enough time to say their piece without going too deep in the weeds. But if we have 30 people show up, well, that's kind of tough to do 3 minutes because we do have staff here and other people in the audience who are here, and we might want to shorten it. So I think I agree and appreciate Mr. Sitton's support of that and Mr. Grabowski about, let the chair decide and use those kind of parameters that Mrs. Parker brought up. The only other thing I'd add that wasn't discussed is I'd like to see us go back to allowing people to sign up to speak up until 6:30 the night of the meeting. We have this 12, and I've heard, I took a lot of flack out campaigning about that 12 o'clock cutoff. So I would like us to extend it, whether it's online or an in-person sign up, beyond 12 o'clock. And I don't know what that magic number is. Is it 4 p.m.? Is it 6 p.m.? I don't know, and I would ask you guys to opine on that if you think it makes sense. So my comments I share with you guys, like I said, and just those additional items. Yes. Ms. LaLon Dixon.
I think just from my experience, I think one challenge with extending it too far would be, for instance, if 40 people signed up, then the agenda has to be written. Is that correct? Like it's written in the agenda how many minutes people are going to have to speak. So how would you shift that? I guess is a question that I have.
Could we say, instead of giving it a time, whether it's 1 minute, 3 minutes, say, at the discretion of the board chair, the speaking time?
Yes, Mr. Scarfo, and we have done that typically, but there was concern in the community that there wasn't enough transparency on that for speakers who prepare in advance coming to speak to the board. So we tried to give them as much notice as possible. Ultimately, this is a board discretionary call, so we will do whatever the board needs us to do in those postings.
That is a good point, though, that you raised, that people would say, I don't know how long I get to talk, so what should I present? Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? What's the magic number? It's... Well, 3 minutes, but I'm talking about how long, when can people sign up to speak? Okay, that's one.
Make it a little later. Make it to like 4 p.m. By then they'll know if they're coming to the meeting or not, and you give them a few more hours to decide, and it doesn't get too close to the cutoff.
I will say, for the benefit of the board, we set the agenda within that, prior to that 72-hour posting requirement for the Open Meetings Act, and we do not make changes to those intersections either. We want to make sure that we're fully compliant with the Open Meetings Act and not making changes too late to the mark.
Dr. Fagan?
I just wanted to add that one of the things that we try to do is when people sign up and it appears that they might be thinking about coming and talking about an individual student or an individual staff member or something really specific to them, Dr. Brown often is the person, but not always, who reaches out to them and just offers help and resolution to the things that really don't make a lot of sense to do in the boardroom. And so if it's too late, obviously we won't be able to do that. And so that was the one downside to not giving us a little bit of space before the meeting to make those phone calls.
No, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Well, a lot of great discussion. So we don't have to do anything on this. One thing I heard is it sounds pretty much that everyone would like to see us have as our standard 3 minutes, assuming we don't have an excessive number of people speaking. So that, because even though we post that, Ms. Martin, tell me if I'm incorrect, we might put 3 minutes, but it is at the discretion of the chair to change it on the fly.
Correct, Mr. Scarfo. You could make that call from the dais in the meeting if needed.
All right, and I could take the arrows for that if I change it. You know, no, and that's fine. That's why you're sitting here. So I can deflect that. But I think the board chair, that would be a good thing. How do you guys feel? We're still discussing. We're not voting yet. That we go to the 3 minutes as our standard. And I'd like to follow up and say, okay, that might be the compromise. Instead of noon or 6, as I said, 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. Is that, Ms. Marr, is that okay? Or Dr. Fagan, do you think that's too late? And tell me it's fine.
Well, I mean, I'm just being transparent. Like,
Sure.
we do try to call everyone and just touch base with them and see, because oftentimes it's something that they just don't know how to resolve, and so we can help them with that, and it's not really something that needs to come here. So noon is nice for us. 2, we could maybe work, Roger? I mean, I know that's tough. That's a tough timeline, but because we have other things that we do today.
Right, no,
Right,
I
yeah.
understand. I mean, and if you can't get to everybody, you can't. I mean, I get that. But if it makes people feel like, oh, I have more time to sign up because I just wanted to, I don't know. This is not, we don't need to spend hours and hours on this topic. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Sitton.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I will say, in addition, I was going to say what Dr. Fagan was saying, because I knew that was their practice, but,
Right.
you know, when you look at when the agenda is posted, you know, everybody's got 3.5 days to look at that. And it's simple, sending an email by noon that I want to speak, and this is what I want to speak about. And if you look back at the vast majority of the speakers over the last several years, most people don't speak at all about anything on the agenda to begin with. So if they've got something that they want to get off their chest, they've got plenty of time to sign up for that board meeting by noon the day of, in my opinion.
Robert,
Yes, Mr. Kirchhoff.
Karen at 4 o'clock is hustling over here to get set up.
Okay.
And that's from,
No,
Martina
and
just
look,
said.
I agree.
so-
Yeah. Okay. No, and what Mr. Sitton just said, I think is very sensible in terms of, yeah, that. So I'll even take back that suggestion that I made, because I was the only one who made it. So I will take that off the table, my suggestion about 6:30. But so I don't think we need to take any vote, unless I'm wrong, Ms. Mark, because we just talked about just how we would handle things as a board.
From a parliamentarian procedure, we do have a motion and a second on the table. However, I would advise the board that under current board policy BED, to set the standard as Mr. Scarfo is describing, would again be within the discretion of the board president and be squarely within the existing policy without changes. The board, of course, can always act to give more or less parameters for the administration to work within, but the existing policy does not need to be changed to accomplish what you all are discussing today.
So then are you saying we would need to vote 7-0 against this motion, or just withdraw it? We can make a
Ms.
motion.
Parker would be welcome to withdraw the motion. Yes, that's correct.
I withdraw my motion.
Accepted, thank you. Okay. Well, that was very good, though, because that was on comments, and we had a lot of comments, so, anyway. Okay, we'll move on to our action items, and we're almost home. information items, Section 8. All right, the first one is A, 2020-23 American Rescue Plan, Act of 2021, the elementary and secondary school emergency relief. It's ESSER 3, an update. Okay, any discussion on that item? Everybody got the information, and if they have any questions for Dr. Fagan, or okay. Moving on. Okay, the 2023-24 state and federal programs report. There was quite a lot of information on that. So, any questions on what was presented? Okay. And our intruder detection audit report?
President Scarfo, there was no audits since our last board meeting, so I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Okay, and finally, Mr. Beatty's been waiting all evening, so ask the question. The next is our financial services reports. Any questions for Mr. Beatty on information that was contained? No. Okay. So we will move on to our meeting close, and the first item is consideration of topics for future board business. Yes, Mr. Sidney.
This is, and you can stop me if I can't do it here, but I think I can. Because of the way that we've done officers at this point, we have not set up our committee assignments. So we need to set up a meeting with the past president, the immediate past president, and the current president to do committee assignments as in our board operating procedures.
Yes, we do. Okay. And that really wouldn't be a topic for, we just need to set a meeting to date, and then at the next meeting, we would have to have an item about the committees. Is that, I think that's what you were
Yeah, so
to.
then the future board
Right.
business would be the committee assignments,
Right.
but I just wanted to remind, we
Yep.
haven't had that meeting, so that needs to happen.
Right. And in the future, we won't have that issue because those people would be in place before you needed to do that. So, okay. So we'll get together with we'll ask Mrs. Martin to get a time that we can get together and we can take care of that. And we might be able to get it done and put it on the budget workshop coming up on 29th, right? Yeah. Yes, as opposed to waiting till the July meeting. But either way, I mean, the committees still can function, although Mr. Grabowski wasn't on any yet, so that we kind of do want to move forward to do that. Yes, Ms. Port?
I would like to look into, explore joining MASBA, which is the Mexican Association of School Boards.
Okay. There is a request for that. I need to, Ms. Mon-Dixon?
Well, before we take a consensus, if we're going to join MASBA, can we also add the Texas Caucus of Black School Board Members along with the Mexican American School Board Association?
Well, I don't have a problem to doing that. I guess my only question would be, are we going to get jumped on because we've left somebody out? I don't know. So should we can consider that in terms of maybe what, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe we could expand that instead of a specific that we have at least an informational item to start with where we consider other associations we should.
Yeah, I just want to look at it. I just
Okay.
want to look at, explore it.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I typically just join on my own anyway,
Right.
but for both of those, but I do think it's something the board should look at, so, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Let me just go down the line in terms of being in favor to have that on a future agenda. Mr. Sidden?
I mean, I guess I have no problem talking about it.
Yeah, that's all we're talking,
Yeah,
that's all we're saying.
not a fan for the reason you just mentioned, because you're going to leave somebody out,
Right.
and then you're going to offend somebody, then you're going to have 10 or 12 people
big
show
one.
up,
Sorry.
you know.
I agree.
So, I would prefer keeping it clean like we have it, but I'm not against talking about it.
Okay. Mr. Holmes?
You know what Mr. Sitton said. I see exactly what you're saying. Mr. Sitton.
Ms. Lamont Dixon?
And explore.
Yes. Mr. Grabowski?
I'm a fan of keeping it clean as well at the moment, but open to the discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Kirchhoff? To discuss it, you're okay? And obviously, Ms. Parker, you, okay. And, all right, so we will do that. Any other items or any other topics for future business? Mr. Grabowski?
With the passage of HB3 and the mandatory or mandating of a armed presence in every school, I'd like to get that discussion. And have been approached by numerous people, something that you're aware of what I ran on. One of them was the Iron Men program, where we had fathers walking the hallways in schools to stop the bullying very effectively, especially at Atascocita Middle School with the principal there, Mr. Kohler. Would like us to discuss those two items.
Okay. And Ms. Marr, may I just ask if could we discuss that type of an item in open session, or because it's student safety, would we have to do that in closed session, even to have it as an informational item or discussion item?
There are elements of House Bill 3 that will require board action, but yes, my recommendation is always to discuss safety issues behind in closed session before the board takes final action, simply because the administration can be more candid with regards to the safety measures that are or are not in place.
Okay. Okay. Let me start again with you, Mr. Sitton. Would you be agreeable to having a discussion item regarding the legislation that is going to force our hand?
It says may,
That may, well,
so you'll have to decide. They left it to you.
okay.
You know, this is a very, very tough question because, as I've mentioned already, if you say what you feel, half the people are going to applaud you for it and the other half are going to hate you for it. We have one of the best ISD police forces in the state of Texas. And I like what we're doing. I like the safety and security program that we have in place. So I'm going to say I'm a no.
Okay. Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, I mean, I ran on the platform that I see it and I get House Bill 3. We have a school, we have a police school force. I understand that right up the road, they have a police force, and they also have, I guess, these, what is it called? The Guardian program. I don't think we need it. I think we are sufficient. I think we've done, shields, all of those things.
And Mr. Scarfo, I apologize. The only item that the board is set for discussion, as this has not been posted, is whether or not to have a future item on a future agenda. I apologize, Mr. Holmes, for interrupting.
Understand. I don't think so. I'm a no.
No, unless HB 3 warrants it.
Ms. Kirchhoff? Ms. Parker?
I don't mind to discuss it, but I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we should have discussion too. So, all right, we'll look to put that on a future agenda item, and Ms. Marr, you'll have to guide as to how we'll have to handle that. because
Absolutely,
of the
Mr.
topic.
Scarfo.
But I think it's something and I agree with Mr. Growski, we are probably have to face that in terms of what we're going to do. Although, interesting, I'm sorry, I'm starting to talk about the topic, so I'll stop right there. Thank you. Okay, so any others? Okay. With that, our meeting is adjourned. It is 9:32. Thank you.